So hi everybody, welcome back to our CMA classes. So let's resume our direct taxation classes. We were doing procedure for assessment. Let's continue it. Okay. So now we know who are the person who have to file compulsory return, right? Voluntary return, lost return, belated return, defective return, revised return, and we know now about the PAN 139A and Aadhaar number 139AA. Okay, let's go and complete few of the sections in this lecture. Let's go for it now. Let's start with one section 139B, which is of the submission of return through tax return preparer. Now we have to understand who are the person who are not eligible for this tax return preparer. Okay, we know who can file return. Normally for the company, these chartered accountant, cost accountant do file the return. Okay, but for individual person can definitely file their return by their own. Okay, but in some professional case definitely they can ask the professional to file their return. Okay, so they are the same person like the professional tax return preparer are also professional who can file the return. Okay, now we have to understand who are the person who are not eligible to be the tax return preparer. Okay, so let's go for it, find out what is written in this section 139B. Okay, remember the section submission of return through the tax return preparer. The tax return preparers means any individual who have been authorized to act is to tax return prepared by CBDT. Any officer of these are the people who are not eligible to be the TRP, tax return preparer. They are scheduled or any officer of the scheduled bank, any legal practitioner, a charged accountant, which is I guess chartered accountant here. It's not charged, it's chartered accountant here. Okay, any CA employee of specified class of person cannot become the tax return preparer. So any officer of scheduled bank, chartered accountant, legal practitioner and any specified class of employee, okay, they cannot become a TRP, tax return preparer. So who can file the return through TRP? All person except the company, okay, or any other person whose account to be audited under any law. Okay, so other than the company and other than the person who are required to get audit their account, okay, so they can go to TRP. Okay, so hope so this was about TRP section 139B. Let's go for section 140, which is saying return by whom is to be verified. Return of the income is to be verified by a person itself or any of his authority representative having a valid power of attorney, who is having the actual power. Okay, in absence of principal, they are talking about in absence of principal who have the power, who can go and verify the return of individual. Okay, so here the law is saying that by any of the person who is having the valid power of attorney, okay, can verify the return. In respect of company, application for corporate insolvency resolution process have been admitted by the adjudicating authority under section 7 or section 9 or section 10. Remember? Yes. This was of which chapter? Law wala chapter, right? Law wala kaun sa? Insolvency bankruptcy wala chapter, right? Okay. So in the corporate insolvency resolution process, okay, the adjudicating authority have been admitted. Okay, in this case under section 7, 9 and 10, okay, insolvency bankruptcy code, this was this section act name. Okay, so the return shall be verified by whom in this case? Definitely by the insolvency professional who was appointed by such adjudicating authority. Okay, in this case simply this was the example of this section, which is simply saying who can verify the return. Okay, so hope so this was also clear. Let's go for the self assessment under section 140E. every person before submitting a return of income under section 139, we know the section of return, okay, that is 139. 142 subsection 1, we have to read this, and 148, 153A, 153A again, okay, is under an obligation to make a self assessment of the income. Okay, so first of all, self assessment is to be done, right? Which person? Who are required to file under section 139, written under section 139, right? 1421 subsection 1, 142 subsection 1, 148 and 153A. Okay, so these person, every person who have to file the return, okay, as per this section, okay, have to make this self assessment. Hope so up to this was clear, right? After taking into account the amount of tax, if any already paid, pay the self assessment tax, and interest and fees is due, and the return shall be accomplished by the proof of payment of such tax, interest, fees. For example, let's take about the TDS. Okay, now we have already covered TDS, we have already covered advanced tax revision, right? And I have already given the example in that chapter. Okay, so let's take a few example. Simply I am saying that. Okay, so once the TDS was deducted, okay, so in that case, what is, we have to take the credit back, right? So we have to give the proof to the income tax authority that my TDS is already deducted on this date by this organization, right? So there are some proof which is to be shown to the authority, okay, which is to be attached with the return. Okay, so where the amount paid by the SSC falls short of the aggregate of the tax, interest, fees, the amounts so paid shall be the first be adjusted toward the fees payable, and thereafter the interest payable as aforesaid and the balance. Which means, first of all, if any shortage arise, okay, so in that case fees should be paid first, later on interest should be paid. Okay, so fees should be paid first, later on interest is to be paid. Okay, if any shall be adjusted toward the tax payable. If any SSC fails to pay the whole or any part of such tax or interest or fees in accordance with the above provision, he shall, without prejudice to any other consequences which he may incur, be deemed to be SSC in default in respect of tax or interest or fees or remaining unpaid, and all the provision of the act shall apply accordingly. Okay, simply, first of all, every person have to make the self assessment under section. Any person who is required to file the return under section 139, okay, 142 subsection 1, 148, 153A. Okay, hope so this was clear. Okay, and later on what is saying, all the adjustment have to be done, proof is to be attached. Okay, apart from that, if any shortage arise, in that case what is to be paid first, fees, then interest. Okay, hope so this up to this was clear. This is the computation, how we have to compute the self assessment tax, computation of total income according to this. Then we have to reduce the tax, remember, relief under section amount which is already paid, which means advance tax. We have already covered this one question in the advance tax where we have to deduct the advance tax, remember, TDS, TCS and all. Okay, so here advance tax is to be deducted, then TDS, TCS to be deducted, any relief which is claimed under section 89, okay, any relief or tax deduction under section 9091 transfer price, right, and relief under section 9090A, okay, any tax credit which MAT wala, okay, and tax interest payable according to 191 subsection 2, fees payable under 234F, remember kaunsa wala section, interest and which is to be add back, okay, interest payable and add back this, okay. And under section 234A for delay in furnishing of the return, shortage of the advance tax was of 234B, and C for the deferment of advance tax. Remember the percentage, right? 1236 for then 75 then 100, right? 1545, 75 and then 100. Okay, hope so this up to this is cleared, and this is how to compute the interest payable under section 234A and 234B. Now we know this. Okay, so this is the computation format. Okay, let's go for inquiry before assessment under section 142. Okay, so there are two types. I have drawn this in two types. Okay, two different categories. So let me say it. Notice is issued to those people who have not filed return. Okay, so notice is issued under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1. Again, let me say it. Notice is issued to those people who have not filed the return. Okay, on before due date, on due date, under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1. And what about the second, under section 142 subsection 1 clause 2 says those people who have filed the return under section specified section 139 and all, okay, they have to furnish information, okay, or book of accounts or documents. Okay, so let's find out which are the person or what are the criteria written in this section. Inquiry before assessment under section 142. Inquiry before assessment, section 142, section 142 subsection 1. For making assessment, the assessing officer may take any of the following steps. First, notice under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1. This notice can be issued to the assessee only who has not filed the return. As I said, notice is issued to those people, those individual, those assessee who have not filed the return. Okay, so remember 142 subsection 1 clause 1, requiring him to furnish the return when no any return has been filled under section 139 subsection 1 has been filed, okay, within the time limit under 139 subsection 1 or before the end of relevant assessment year. Okay, so can I tell you, those are the person who are going to get the notice under section 142 subsection 1 clause 1 who have not filed return under section 139, right? So can I write here not filed return under section 139 subsection 1, okay, and what is going to be the time limit? Time limit which was written in 139 subsection 1 or before end of relevant assessment year, they have to file the return. Okay, so what about the second clause 142 subsection 1 clause 2? Let's find out. As I told you, those who have actually filed the return, but due to some complexity or some error or something, the assessing officer will ask them to produce the information, documents and all. Okay, so let me read it. Under notice under section 142 subsection 1 clause 2, this notice can be issued to all the assessee who filed return or not, okay, who filed return or not, to produce or cause to be produced such accounts or documents as the assessing officer may require, but shall not require the assessee to produce any account relating to period of more than 3 years prior to the previous year, along with the accounts of previous year under assessment. So can I say what is the difference between these two sections? These two sections 142 subsection 1 clause 1 and clause 2, right? Notice is served to those assessee who have not filed the return under section 139. Okay, they have to file the return. And what is going to be the time limit? Remember 139 subsection 1 wala time limit, with that or the before the end of relevant assessment year, whichever is earlier or later, you have to tell me, you have to comment below. Second, for 142 for second clause, okay, for this clause they are saying whether you have filed the return or not. Okay, so mainly who have filed the return, we are talking about them. Okay, so if you have filed the return or not, the assessing officer is going to ask to produce the information or documents or some other things which he really wanted to. Okay, so but he cannot ask you for more than 3 years prior to the previous year along with the accounts of previous year under the assessment. Okay, so hope so this point was also clear. Let's go for the third notice, which I have not mentioned in the diagram. Okay, notice under section 142 subsection 1 and clause 3. This notice can be issued to any assessee who has filed a return of the income of whose time is to be filled under section 139 subsection 1 has been expired. Can I say it again? Okay, so this notice can be issued to any assessee, okay, who have filed a return of income of whose time to file return under section 139 has expired. So the person have filed the return but after due date. Okay, so this notice is for them. clause 3 wala. Okay, in writing and verified in a prescribed manner information in such a form as he may require, and he may also ask to statement for all the asset liabilities of the assessee for the number of previous years. Okay, so there are 3 part, 141, 142, subsection 1, 1, 1, clause 1, clause 2, clause 3. Okay, so 1 was who have not filed the return, second whether filed or not, mostly who have filed the return, and third who have filed the return but after expiry of time limit which was mentioned in section 139 subsection 1. Okay, so let's find out the other thing which is written here. Assessing officer have power to make the necessary inquiry for making the assessment under section 142 subsection 2. Okay, but before that assessee will get opportunity of being heard. Okay, so let me continue it. Assessee shall be given an opportunity of being heard in respect of any material gathered on basis of any inquiry proposed to be utilized for the purpose of assessment, except the assessment is made under section 144. Okay, let's go for the special audit now. Special audit section is 142 subsection 2A. Can I write it? Section would be section 142 subsection 2A is for special audit. Now, why the special audit is to be conducted? Do if the, for example, an assessee have already audited his return and all, everything, accounts and all, okay, whether he have to file again return, whether he have to get audited again the accounts and all, or who is going to be the person who is going to get or who is going to do the audit. Okay, in this case. So, and what are the cases when the special audit is to be done? Let's find out. The assessing officer, okay, the assessing officer having regard which is related to volume of accounts, okay, complexity of accounts, doubt about the correctness of the accounts, multiplicity of the transaction in account, specialized nature of business of account, or interest of revenue, which is definitely interest of revenue for the income tax, right? So, whenever the assessing officer is having any doubt related to volume, complexity, unnecessary transaction, or multiplicity transaction which is occurred in the daily transaction of the assessee. Okay, in that case, the AO, the assessing officer, will say to the assessee to get his account audited. Okay, he'll direct the assessee to get his account audited. Now the question comes here, do he have to take any prior approval from any of the authority, or he can directly go to the assessee, or he can directly direct the assessee, or let me say it again. Okay, so the prior approval is to be taken by assessing officer. Okay, so prior approval is to be taken by assessing officer by whom? CCIT, principal CCIT, or CIT, principal CIT. Okay, so these are the authority from which the assessing officer have to take the approval. Okay, these are the authority: CIT, PCIT, CCIT, PCCIT. Okay, and account is to be audited even if already audited. This was question which I have already asked, whether the account was already audited, okay, or not even audited. In both the cases, if the assessee get the notice under section this, okay, for the special audit, he have to get his account audited again. Okay, so what is going to be the time limit? Time limit would be 180 days. Is there any extension given or extension granted? I'll tell you one thing, including the extension time period, it's going to be 180 days. It cannot exceed 180 days. Hope so this was also clear. So the time limit is going to be total period including extension, not excluding 180 days. Expenses of audit shall be determined by whom? Now, who was the person who is going to appoint the auditor in this case, and who is going to pay the remuneration to the auditor? Expenses of audit shall be determined by PCCIT, CCIT, and paid by whom? Paid by the central government. Okay, so here the PCCIT or CCIT is going to appoint the auditor. Okay, and who is going to pay? The central government is going to pay. Okay, don't get confused here. They are two different parties. Okay, so CCIT, PCCIT is going to appoint and central government is going to pay. Okay, opportunity of being heard is given to SSC except under section 144, which is best judgment wala section, सबसे खतरनाक वाला section. Okay, so let me read it again. Simple है. Okay, SSC officer is going to direct the SSC to get his account audited in some of the cases, and these were the cases due to the volume of accounts, okay, complexity, multiplicity transaction, or if those transaction is going to increase the revenue of department. In that case, the assessing officer is going to direct the SSC to get his account audited again, even if his account was audited before or not. ठीक है, टाइम लिमिट 180 days was the maximum extension time, including the extension time. Okay, and who is going to appoint? PCCIT, CCIT, and central government is going to pay the remuneration. Okay ना, चलो पढ़ते हैं. The assessing officer may at any time, at any stage of the assessment, direct the SSC to get the account audited by whom? The chartered accountant nominated by the chief commissioner, commissioner of income tax. Such a decision may be taken by the assessing officer. Okay, if having regarding to the nature, volume, multiplicity of transaction, doubts about the correctness of the accounts, specialized nature of activity, business activity, and interest of the revenues of opinion that it is necessary to do so. Above direction of the audit can be given even if accounts are already audited under Income Tax Act or any other law. Audit report instructed under this notice can be submitted in Form 6B, not later than 180 days from the date of such direction. Expenses of such audit determined by CC, which is Chief Commissioner, and Commissioner shall paid by the whom? Central Government. Hope so this point was definitely clear. Okay, so let's go for the other part of 142. This is the continuation part. Okay, some of the penalties are written here. Let's find out what are that. Okay, section 142 subsection 3. The assessing officer, before using such information gathered under section 142 subsection 2 and 142 subsection 2A for any assessment, shall give an opportunity of being heard to the assessing. We know this, right? However, no such opportunity is given when the assessment is made under 144, right? We know this again. So, what are the consequences of non-compliance of section 142 subsection 1 and 142 subsection 2A? Best judgment. Okay, these are the consequences. C's. Okay, for non-compliance under section 142 subsection 1 and 142 subsection 2A. Okay, so best judgment under section 144 is going to happen in the non-compliance of these sections. Penalty under section 271 subsection 1, okay, is to be imposed, and 10,000 rupees, or prosecution under section 276D, and imprisonment of 1 year, and 4 to rupees 10 per day is to be chargeable, and issue warranty under section 132 for the search. Okay, please excuse my handwriting. Okay, these are the consequences which are going to happen for the non-compliance of this section. First of all, best judgment. Remember, ठीक है जी. Penalty under section 271 subsection 1 is going to be imposed. Okay, of kitna rupees? 10,000 rupees. Okay, prosecution under section 276D and imprisonment of 1 year. Okay, and what else? Warranty under section 132 for the search is going to be imposed. ठीक है, so hope so up to this was clear. Let's go for the other section, which is estimation by the valuation officer in certain cases. Okay, can you tell me, in some transaction, if the assessing officer is having a doubt, okay, related to some transaction, so can they go for help to any other authority, any other officer? Yes. Okay, but in which cases they can definitely go to ask some of the other officers. In this section we are reading about the valuation officers, okay, in some certain cases. So let me say it Okay, let's go for the diagram which I have written. With the help of diagram, you're able to understand. AO with the reference purpose of assessment or reassessment. Okay, purpose of assessment and reassessment, fair market value of 3: asset, property, investment. Again, asset, property, investment. Okay, so AO is going to refer whom? The valuation officer, the VO. AO, VO. Okay, going to refer in cases of 3 things: fair market value of the asset, property or investment. Okay, and for this purpose A is going to ask him, the VO, and VO within 6 months from the end of month of reference by AO have to give the order to a assessee and assessing officer. Okay, let me read the full section, then we'll come in conclusion about this section. Okay, so let's go for the estimation by valuation officer in certain cases. Section 142 subsection 142A, no subsection here. AO will make reference to VO, valuation officer, for the purpose of assessment or reassessment to estimate value including the fair market value of what? Asset, property, investment. Okay, and submit a copy of report to him. Reference can be made even without rejection of accounts by AO. The valuation officer have all the power that he has under section 38A of Wealth Tax Act. Estimation of value by VO given after giving assessing an opportunity of being heard. In this case, again, opportunity of being heard is given to whom? To the assessee. Estimation on basis of judgment, best judgment and non-comparison of the assessee. Report is to be sent to the assessee and assessing officer within 6 months from the end of month of reference. AO to complete assessment after considering such report and after giving assessee an opportunity of being heard. So A is going to give the order, final order, after getting the reference from the valuation officer, and valuation officer have to give the order from 6 months from the reference. Okay, so this was the time limit. So let's go for the faceless inquiry or valuation under section 142 subsection B. Oh, sorry, B. No subsection. Okay, central government is empowered to notify a scheme for the purpose of issuing notice under section 142 subsection 1. We know this section now. Okay, and making inquiry before assessment under section 142 subsection 2. Okay, we know this. And directing the assessee to get his account audit under section 142 subsection 2. हाँ जी, ये भी पता है. And estimating the value of asset, property, investment by the valuation officer under section 142A. रिमेंबर, हम अब अपने को सब पता है कि कौन से सेक्शंस आर रिलेटेड टू कौन सा पार्ट. ओके, 142 सबसेक्शन 1. ओके, एंड 142 subsection 142 subsection 2 and valuation officer 142 and 2A 142A. Okay, let's go for it. The scheme would impact greater efficiency, transparency and accountability by limiting the interference between the income tax authority, valuation officer and assessee or any other person to extend technological feasible, optimizing utilization of resources through economic of scale, functional specialization, introducing a team-based issuance of notice or making of inquiries or issuance of direction or valuation with the dynamic jurisdiction. Okay, which means as the faceless section is saying, there would be no interference of income tax authority. Okay, so the SSA can direct interact with the assessing officer without knowing who the person is. Okay, so which is going to reduce the corruption. Okay, black money market circulation. Okay, let's go for the section 143 subsection 1, which is processing of written. We can say intimation. Intimation for section 143 subsection 1. So can I say when is this section going to imposed? Okay, where a written under section 139 or response to section 142 subsection 1 is filled. Then under section 143 subsection 1, this written is checked from the point of arithmetic accuracy. Okay, so can I say in response of section 139, remember written wala section. Okay, in response of section 139, okay, and 142 subsection 1, okay, this section is going Okay, let me read it again. Where a return under section 139 or in response to the notice under section 142 subsection 1 is filled, then section 143 subsection 1, this return is checked from the point of arithmetic accuracy, okay, which will not be scrutinized in detail in the following ways. If the total income or losses shall be computed after making the following adjustment, namely arithmetic error in the return or incorrect claim, if such incorrect claim is apparent from any information in the return, or any disallowance of loss claimed, which means if the that deduction was not allowed, which means that was disallowed, and the assessee have allowed in the return of his income, total income, in that case that would be disallowed. Okay, if the return of the previous year for which the set of loss have been claimed was furnished beyond the due date specified under section specified subsection 1 of 139. Okay, disallowance of the expenditure, disallowance of the losses. Remember the return of losses to be filed before the due date, otherwise what is going to happen, the carry forward, we cannot set off and carry forward of the losses of return. Remember what I have told you in the loss of return, remember? Okay, hope so this point is clear to you. And fourth point is saying disallowance of the expenditure indicated in the audit report but not taken into account in the computing the total income of the return, and disallowance of some of the deduction under section 10AA, 80IA, 80IB, 80IB, 80IEB, 80IB, 80IC, 80ID or 80IE. If the return is furnished beyond the due date, sums specified under subsection 1 of section 139(1). Okay, and let me leave this point. So there are 5 different points which is saying some of the losses would be disallowed, okay, or some of the expenditure would be disallowed, okay, and arithmetic error, due to the arithmetic error, or some of the income based deduction of this point. Okay, these are the saying the person after the return is filed under section 139, okay, and 142 subsection 1, okay, this process is done, okay, where the return is to be checked by the software, and which is going to tell about the specification if there is any arithmetic error, of if there is any expenditure which is claimed, of if there are any losses which is claimed, okay, and which was not actually allowed and assessee have claimed in his total income. In that case that would be disallowed. Hope so up to this everything was clear. Okay, so this was about this section. Let me say more about this section. Intimation, writing or in electronic mode. SSC, no adjustment is to be made. Adjustment made if no response received within 30 days of the intimation. Intimation shall generate and send to the SSC payable or refund within 9 months from the end of financial year in which the return is made. No such adjustment shall be made unless an intimation is given to the SSC. Okay, so no any adjustment is made. Further intimation is to be sent first to the SSC. Okay. Adjustment either in writing or electronic mode. The response received from the SSC, if any, shall be considered before making the adjustment. Adjustment to be made if no response received within next 30 days of intimation. An intimation shall be generated and sent to SSC specifying the sum determined to be payable, the amount of refund due the SSC within the 9 months from the end of financial year in which return is made. Acknowledgement of return deemed intimation in case where no sum is payable by the refundable to the SSC and where no adjustment has been made. Simply, can I say the adjustment cannot made without informing the SSC, right? And there is some time limit. Within this time limit, the intimation is to be sent back, the reply is to be sent back to the assessing officer, okay, by the SSC. And within this month, return is to be made, the 9th month. Okay, the financial year, end of financial year in which the return was made. Hope so up to this was clear, and this section was saying about some of the disallowance or due to arithmetic error, the assessing officer is going to say send the adjustment or make the adjustment. Okay, okay. So let's go for the scrutiny notice. under section 143 subsection 2, scrutiny notice is to be sent is to be issued in accordance to ensure that the assessee has not understated the income or computed excessive loss or unpaid tax in any manner. Such notice is to be required to be served, not merely issued before the expiry of 3 months from the end of financial year in which the return is furnished. Okay, so it is to be served before the expiry of 3 months. Before the expiry of 3 months from the end of financial year in which return was furnished. Okay, so what is going to be the financial, for example, we in 31st of July we have to file the return. Okay, what is the financial year and 31st March, this is 2024. Okay, okay, let me take this year, don't get confusion here. 2024, for what is going to be end 31st of March 2025. Okay, before end of 3 month, 31st March is going to be end, right? Before month, which means December, 1st of January, before that the notice is to be served to the assessee. Okay, if any person fails to comply with section 143 subsection 2, he shall pay by way of penalty sum of rupees 10,000 for such default of failure. So this is going to be the penalty of what? 10,000 rupees. Hope so this point was also clear. Let's go for the scrutiny assessment. Okay, this is going to be the last section of today's lecture. Scrutiny assessment. What was the scrutiny assessment time limit? Notice wala 3 months before end of financial year in which return was filed. Okay, let me say it now. So scrutiny assessment under section 143 subsection 3, 143 subsection 3 is also known as what? The regular assessment. So can I write here scrutiny assessment is equal to the regular assessment, right? Yes. So to intimate assessment under section 143 subsection 3, assessing officer have to issue the notice under section 143 subsection 2. Now we know the time limit. Okay, which can only be issued in case where the return was under section 139 or in response of section 142 subsection 1 has been filed by the assessee. Okay, scrutiny notice cannot be sent if return is not filed under section 139, okay, or section 142 subsection 1. Remember which notice wala part? Remember notice wala part or documents wala part? Remember, हाँ ठीक है. Mere means notice under section 143 subsection 2 and assessment under section 143 subsection 3 cannot be issued done if no return is furnished, if no return is filed. Assessing officer under section 143 subsection 2, if consider it necessary or expedient to ensure that the assessee has not understated the income, has not computed excessive loss, has not underpaid the tax in any manner, shall require assessee to attend his office to produce document evidence in support of return. And note 1, no notice under section 143 subsection 2 shall be served on assessee after the expiry of 6 months from the end of financial year in which return was furnished. So can I say in this section what is written? The assessing officer cannot issue notice. ठीक है. First of all, what is the time limit of scrutiny notice? We know this. Okay, 3 years before the end of financial year in which return was furnished. ठीक है ना? हाँ. Okay. So if the person, the assessee, individual assessee have not filed return under section 139 or 143 subsection 1, okay, in these cases they have not filed the return, okay, the assessing officer cannot go for this section, okay, with 2 sections. First was of scrutiny notice, second is of scrutiny assessment. And in this section, if the assessee have taken the excessive loan, okay, in that case that is going to happen, okay, have understated his income, okay, in that case this section is going to happen, okay. So and what is the time limit of this? Let me say it again. The serve on the assessee after 6 months from the end of financial year in which return is furnished. No notice under section 143 subsection 2 can be served. Okay, so no notice after expiry of 6 months from the end of financial year in which return was furnished. As I told you, what was the time limit under section scrutiny notice? We know this. Okay, so within that 3 month end of financial year, the assessing officer have to serve the notice. Okay, so that's it guys, this is the end of this lecture. Hope so this was useful. If this was useful, hit a like button, subscribe my channel, and share this video to those who are doing CA, CS, CMA and all. Okay, till then, this is Soumya Santosh. Toodles guys.